Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Around the Table GTA. I think that's the shortest version of the intro I'll ever do. I just don't want to lose my thought for this episode. I was actually going to shoot it maybe like a week ago, and then it kind of like fizzled out of my brain. I even left the Instagram note on it, but then after I was just like, what can I actually really talk about with this topic? And then it kind of fizzled out of my mind, and then I heard a bunch of stories, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to capitalize on this before I forget again. But either way, guys, hopefully you guys are having a fun summer like I am. I apologize for the mains on the Around the GTA IG page. I have to be posting there more. I've just been shit posting on my main and just doing the most, enjoying summer and just being, I wouldn't say 100% myself, but being myself because, like you guys already know, I was on nights and now I'm back on real people hours so I could be 100% real. But anyways, this episode is about taking a risk. Okay? The most advice that I hear from like older people are either A, don't get married. That's mainly older men. Don't get married. And then the number two outside of don't get married, which is kind of sad. Like, you know, people do want to still get married. I know I want to get married. I want to have like a large family, or at least find someone that I want to, you know, spend the rest of my life with. I still believe in stuff like that. But, you know, apparently like a lot of people regret it. But anyways, that's neither here or there. But the bigger one is taking a risk. And what does that mean? What it means is that how we perceive our world, how everyone else perceives their world, it's not always aligned. And I always talk about this in my podcast episodes because I'm always talking about variance and different opinions, or just trying to frame something in a different light so that people could kind of try to understand another person's point of view, or even try to look at another topic in a different light. But this kind of spoke to me because I actually got a couple of stories for this one. But you know, you never know when you have to take a risk, but it's good to try it every once in a while. Like, if you fail, you fail. The worst part about it is that you failed. You could always try again or try to recover, but it depends on the risk that you take. I think I talked about this in the older episode, but still, like, I heard about Bitcoin when Bitcoin was like $24. I was a broke college kid, and you know, I didn't take the risk. But I know someone who took the risk and they became a crypto millionaire, and they're still using the money that they made off of Bitcoin. You know, they have their own property, they tried a couple of businesses, and they got into the whole NFT market as well. And because of that risk that they took, they're in a better financial point. I have a friend who tends to move a lot, tends to do kind of things that are a little bit risky. I'm not gonna name him, but he knows who he is. But basically, like a couple years back, he met someone, he didn't tell the group, and he got engaged, he got married. Long story short, you know, he has 4 kids, or the fourth one's coming on the way. And, you know, he seems to be happy. He took a risk. He met someone, they really hit it off, and now they live in a completely different place, and they have, you know, 3 beautiful kids, wonderful kids, fourth one's coming. And it was a huge risk. It was a huge risk to get that serious so quickly. It was a huge risk to buy a house and split it with someone. It was a huge risk to move across the country to try to find a better home because of your living situation, because you have so many kids. And even having so many kids in this time and age, especially with inflation, food inflation up here in Canada, and just kind of like the floundering job market. But, you know, he took that risk and it's working out for him. I have a I have a spicy story, but I'm not gonna name drop. But it's just like when you're picking people up, or like if you're talking to someone, you never know, they might be a good fit for you, they might end up being like the worst choice of your life. Some older stories that I do have is that there's a couple of friends that I've had who I could tell that, oh, these two people would be pretty good together, right? And for the most part, most of them worked for a majority of the time. One couple, they're married now. One couple, it didn't work out, even though it was like a really long relationship. One couple, it was working out for a while. They had a kid, and it didn't work out, right? Sometimes the risk is there. Sometimes the risk is worth it. Sometimes the risk is a lesson. And that's the thing about life. If you don't do anything, you're not going to learn. And if you don't make mistakes, or if you don't do anything, you won't have any lessons. And through the lessons that you learn, you gain the wisdom, right? That's why some kids are just like really smart, because they go through all of these hardships. As we become older, as we become more fragile, because I think older people are more fragile in general. They're scared of re-injuring themselves, or, opening up their heart because of whatever past traumas. And then sometimes that trauma eats them up so much that they destroy things that could be worthwhile for them. Right? It's just like how I told you that my one boss said that he'd never seen me smile before. It's because when I am not paying attention to anything, I am in deep thought. I'm always in deep thought. If I am going somewhere and I'm like late, I will not hear or see anything that is not in front of my path. And yeah, it's weird, but that's kind of like how I am. Sometimes I slow down when I'm going other places just so that I could kind of take in more. But if I'm trying to go to point A to point B, I'm only thinking about point B, And is that something from childhood drama? I don't know. Even today, I ran into a childhood friend, and I was discussing like finance, because they're Ubering to work. I don't know how much money they make, but even me with a decent salary, I can't Uber every day to work. Like, I did it for a while. I did the mathematical calculations for it, and it did not make sense, right? So I'm saving a lot more money not doing it. Yes, I'm using alternative methods of travel, but the amount of money that is saved so that I could do bigger and better stuff is 100% worth it. But going back to the whole trauma thing, where it's like, I was talking to that friend, and apparently like they're petrified of driving. And the thing is, this city that I live in too, it's notorious for crazy car crashes. Yeah, if you're listening to this, it's probably going to be Wednesday. Not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday. So you'll probably see the video. There was a video where this guy turned to the right and he was driving, and this Hummer just was driving on the wrong side of the street and completely totaled the dude's car. The guy comes out of the car, and the guy in the Hummer just takes off. It's all on video. And this is like the crazy things that happen in the city. And, that's just going to intensify your fear. But at the same time, we need to overcome those fears. We need to grow and become stronger people, not only for ourselves, but for the people who are around us and the people who may come to us in the future, right? The spicy story was, I have a friend who was interested in this person because they work retail and they see this person all the time. And I don't know, I think maybe this is like a made up stat, but I'm saying like maybe 8 out of 10 dudes, like when you're younger, or even like, I guess even at my age, it's like you always had that dream of like getting with the older woman, right? So he was joking around with a coworker, and he was like, oh well, maybe she might be interested. So he's just like, okay, why not? Let me let me hit on the person, right? So he hit on the person, and they were so taken back by his advance, right? So he kind of felt like, oh damn, I really messed up. And yeah, if you don't take the risk, you don't know what's gonna happen, right? But anyways, let's fast forward to the future. They talk with them, they apologize to the person, and the person's like, oh, it's okay, I was just shocked that you said that, right? And as time passed, they talked more and more, and something happened between them, right? And that was because he took that risk, right? Sometimes someone may come off a certain way, and if you don't initiate, you'll never know how they truly are. Like my last episode, I was talking about certain groups, and like certain groups and certain people, until you start talking to them in a certain manner or a certain thing in a way, you'll never know what kind of things that like they're into, but they might not be they might not be open to talking about that because they see you in like a completely different light. I'm not gonna expose anyone, but I was talking about cakes with a couple of different friends, and it was just surprising that so many people could be so into like the exact same things, right? But that's neither here or there. But even at the party with the anonymous group of people that I was talking about, like they were talking about stuff, and I was just like, how are people into that? And that's not me necessarily like yucking their yum. I love that term. I heard it recently, but it was just like, wow, people are very complex, and even though a lot of people think people are stupid, which is true and not true at the same time, it's just that people are so different. So that's why you need to make sure that you take a risk. I talk about it in the same episode, like the last episode. If it's not the last episode, it's like 2 episodes ago. But yeah, when I was in Kensington Market, there was an artist, and he just does random art, but he also did like a lot of vulgar art. And he was talking about how his perception of everything was that, oh, if I do something that's too taboo or too vulgar, it might like scare off the customers, it might push people away. But when he did something that was pretty vulgar, it actually attracted more people, and it brought more attention to the area. Especially since we're in the social media era, things like that can draw more attention, especially with cameras and live video at that moment, as well as posts and tags. It'll bring more attention. Like I was talking to another friend where I was like, I hope I don't get viral anytime soon, because if I become viral, I want to be able to capitalize on it as soon as possible. Because when you're viral, oh my days, you have an open window to make a lot of money, whether you're selling merch, whether you have like a GoFundMe ready, or a PayPal, or a Venmo, or a Cash App. There's so many different things for like donating people money, but it's just something that you'll never know what you could do, and it could blow up. Like there's that one video, it's probably like a week old now, but there's that one guy who's talking about it's one vlog place where they ask you like what's the dirtiest thing you ever did. It's like dirty confessions or whatever, and this dude was just talking about pleasuring himself, and it was just like, so I wouldn't say, like I said, no yucking people's yums, but it was just like, it was so shocking that someone would admit something like that just so openly because there's a mic in front of them, right? And that became like a viral video twice over, because this guy's just expressing how he was able to do a deed where, not a lot of people have done it. Maybe a chunk of people have thought about trying to do it, and then maybe some people like himself was successful about it, right? So when it comes to life in general, sometimes you have to take a risk. I was talking to some older people, like I said earlier, and one person was talking about getting into the housing market, and even like immigration when they were younger, and this was like 30 years ago, and all the hoops and all the risks that they took because they wanted to stay here, they wanted something for their family, and they did something that was super risky, and that risk basically helped them secure a bag, right? They got a place for their sibling as well, and they just slowly grew from there. but it was a risk to take, right? Even they were talking about before they settled down, they just did a bunch of jobs and they were working at different workplaces, and the experience itself, like, I'm being very vague because I don't want to necessarily out the person, right? But basically, they learned a lot of life skills through the random jobs that they did until they found something that they were more comfortable with. But then, getting married, getting someone knocked up kind of changed the trajectory of life, right? And when you get older, whether you have kids or not, you tend to have more responsibility, especially if you grew up in like a more stable home or a more privileged life. I really don't like using that word, but when you're in a environment where you can be a kid for very long, there's different stages of becoming more responsible. Uh, Unfortunately, people who have a harder upbringing have responsibilities a lot sooner, and that could change their trajectory on life and even their views on life, right? Like myself, like, I'm not saying that I had a horrible childhood. I had like a pretty fun childhood, but it was definitely a hard childhood, despite how happy of a kid I was. But has it shaped me into a better person? Am I still a loving person? Am I still a person who's there for others as well as, you know, somewhat normal? I guess so. I'm kind of weird, but at the same time, it's not about me, but it's just about growth and change, right? When you have a lot of responsibility when you're younger, you know, it kind of changes your priorities in life, and it makes you think like an adult a lot sooner. And yeah, that's why some people, I think that's the biggest reason why, like, if I'm not talking to someone, I'm thinking, because I've always had to kind of think a couple of steps ahead before making certain decisions. And like, a lot of people are like, oh, that's surprising, but it's just like, especially since how I act at times, right? Because when I'm having fun, I'm having a lot of fun. And the reason why I'm having a lot of fun is that there was times in my life there where I had no time to have fun, right? But this is neither here nor there. But at the end of the day, guys, you got to make sure that you're taking a risk. Like right now, we're heading into a recession, or we're already in a recession. What risk can you take now to secure the bag, or make your life easier in the future, right? That's like me doing a bunch of podcast episodes in one day. When I take a day to do a lot of podcast episodes, it frees up my calendar. Like, my August is very jam packed. I should actually be sleeping right now because I got some lessons in the morning and then I got to run around. But I'm taking this as a priority because it's the risk that I'm willing to take. And I'm not saying just go and take out any risk, right? I'm not saying, oh yeah, go to Mexico right now and just blow with some hookers and live your best life. No, you still got to make calculated risk, but at the same time, you still want to make a decision where it doesn't have to always be safe. Like, if you always make safe decisions, you'll be stable, right? And there's nothing wrong with being stable. But if you don't take a bigger risk, then the reward is going to be just a minimal reward, right? When you take a bigger risk, you'll have a bigger reward. But at the same time, you don't want to do anything too sketch. Like, if you're doing anything sketch, if you're pulling scams, if you're, if you're casing a joint, if you're trying to do a B&E, don't do anything that's going to give you like a long-term, your life is over kind of risk. But take a risk where, if it works out for you, it'll be awesome. Worst case scenario, you're going back to whatever you're doing. I'm in the process of, calculating a bunch of risks as well. So sometimes when I do these podcasts, it's something that's on my mind too, and I'm sharing it on the internet not only to just express myself, but to also kind of spark that creativity in the people who are willing to just listen to the podcast. And again, thank you guys for checking this out. I'm going to wrap it up over there. And I guess I'll leave you guys with a question. I keep doing the questions at the start or at the end of the whole thing. And I'm just going to start doing stuff more at the start because I think it'll also increase engagement. But, what's the biggest risk that you've taken? Maybe that's a question. Or what's a risk that you're willing to take? What's something that you're thinking about doing, but you're not really sure if you're comfortable with sharing? But at the same time, yeah, I'm just bringing that stuff up because it's just like you need to make sure that you're progressing in life. Even if it's slowly, you want to make sure that you're still progressing. So hopefully you guys like this episode. I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for tuning in. Share this, like this. I think this is going to be like the wrap for season 2. I think season 2 has like almost like 40 episodes now. So I'm trying to think of what theme I should kind of stick to for now, or if I'm just going to keep bouncing between serious topic, fun topic, sea theory topic. I don't know, guys. Help me out. Help me with the engagement. Engage. Hit me up on IG. Let me know. I still got like a huge board of stuff that I want to do, and I gotta fill up my calendar. So for the last time, this is this is the end of the podcast. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.